Welcome back. We stormed the cathedral today. But first, there's one more place to go that has been unlocked by the various keys we've acquired. Also, the beast's dummy with a goofy little mask. Remember way back when these guys are no longer a threat. You know, they weren't too much of a threat before. In we go, to an empty room. Save for this. Damascus spear. An interesting gem. And some restoratives. Somehow forgot to use this already. Good restore. Anyway, the Polaris gives a decent boost all around to physical, air, and earth, and to the detriment of the other ones. In hindsight, I probably could have used it coming up, but it's really not that big of a deal. I also decided that, despite some misgivings, I decided to actually go back to the Snowfly Forest and farm for the makings of another Khopesh. And as you can see, the boost between a Khopesh and a Wakizashi is not particularly high. And with the exception of the final boss, I'm not going to be using it during most of the dungeon. So, I decided to do that anyway. So here it is. You can see the root above the door in his engraving. We have this cloudstone that we cannot do anything with. The only way to go is down. If I need it, there is a heal panel around here. There's 2 doors. Doesn't really matter which way you go. This is just the one that I usually go to. Here we have the Fire Elemental's big brother, Ifrit, or Ifrit, or however you wish to pronounce it. He is the Deva of the Fire Elementals, the best of the best. You may also note that I've had an Ifrit Carnelian gem, so you can kind of, even though it's only 1 data point right now, you might be able to extrapolate who else will be fighting in the cathedral. Somewhat handicapped myself, just storming right in without really giving a care about what I was doing. And that being said, I'm still handling it quite well. For those of you who have not been seen many Final Fantasy LPs or any of the other things that explain the derivation of Ifrit, He is a Djinn of Middle Eastern mythology, 1001 Arabian Nights and things of that sort. And he's going to let out the big one. The higher up elementals get an extra spell, which looks fancy, but still can't get through Magic Word. Despite being the tougher fire elemental, I still fixate on the little one's pants more. I really don't know how to take that. And as you can see, Gain Magic is a very useful skill to have. And that's all she wrote. And as you can see through the crack of the wall, it's now sunset. Sadly, despite the fact that we are progressing through time, if we go back outside, it'll still be a bright day. So let's go look behind what was behind door number 1. This is Marid, and I'm not entirely sure what type of hat he has. I think it might be a Ronin Gasa, although that's, I think, usually a flat top. I think mostly just consider that it is a barnacle. Since I saw a magic ward up, I might as well allow him to dispel it for me rather than leave myself vulnerable to his attacks. Although not as commonly known as Ifrit, Murid is apparently another Jinn of 1001 Nights. They're also D&D elementals, which is actually probably where this is more relevant from. This is just more of the same, except laying into him with fire spell affinity rather than water affinity, but at least it's a little bit more interesting to look at rather than just a bigger, beefier fire elemental. Also, take note, we've been in 4 rooms already, and we've fought 2 bosses. While there's other places where this kind of occurs, they're usually spaced off with regular trash mobs. Whereas in the cathedral, there are only, well, technically 4 rooms without bosses, but and really only one of them is something that is definitely not a boss level. One that's kind of borderline, and then the other ones, by all rights, should have been bosses. I should mention it now. At the conclusion of the game, all consumable items are lost. So there's absolutely no reason not to use it. And here's the big brother of the area effect spells for the water spells. Sadly, you'll never get these. I decided, what the hell? Let's piss this down our leg. Surprisingly, it's not that bad. But still, it's really not that worth it at this moment. Kinda like to think that this guy's struggling to breathe, like he suddenly forgot that he's not underwater for the last 4 minutes. Complete non sequitur here. Back when Gundam Wing was on Toonami, I always liked Death Scythe being referred to as the Great Destroyer rather than the God of Death. And with Merid beaten, this Cloudstone that we have not yet seen is reactivated. There's no need to go through this door at the other corner. Not yet, right now. I'm just wandering around like a moron looking for the heal floor space, which is... Of course it's going to be in the last place I look. It's in this row. Didn't matter anyway. Here is the Cloudstone, and a better view at the sunset. But there's still another room that we haven't gone into yet. The sixth door, the sixth room that we've been into so far. So right now since I'm buffing up, you can already tell it's going to be a boss. We've reached boss saturation of 50%. Suddenly Crab. Just look at that. It's pretty spry because of the pretty good evasion, but it really won't do much good when I'm doing almost 100 points of damage a hit. And he is not doing anything to me. Fool. If only you didn't realize too soon that the deadliest catch is man. And this unlocks the first cloudstone that we saw. But I'm not going back that way yet. That's not how I roll. Can take up again if we wish, but we won't. For some reason this room is on its side, like it's a collapsed tower. That being said though, the room that precedes it is still upright. So I'm not entirely sure why this is and why people make such a big deal about this room being sideways. It's a non sequitur. And sadly we lose the this and that format of the titles for the boss fights from here on out. This guy's a djinn. Obviously it's a djinn because his name is Jin, so let's just not think of it anymore. Let's just proceed to the murder. What's far more interesting is that there's a treasure chest in this room, but there's no way to get to it. At this point I'm tired of him, but I want him to feel important and get his ultimate air affinity spell off. So I'm sandbagging a little bit here. And here we are. Interesting little science fact, as far as you can be accurate with magic spells. Lightning does actually travel down and also climbs up through the ground as well. Up from the ground, so that little gout of electricity that was coming out of Ashley's head at the moment was vaguely accurate. And I was just so done with him. Didn't care that I was going up to almost 100 risk at the end. Also, as I haven't mentioned it already, you can see a whole lot of the Yoken Rood. These saints, or whoever they are, usually carry quite a few of them. Now we have a cloudstone from another room that we've never been to. And with Jin's defeat, these boxes spawn. Not really a puzzle here. But the third best armors in the game. Just lobbing a softball here to dispel magic ward. I'm doing a really bad job of centering the camera. But I'm in not that big of a rush since coming on to the next, well, not a boss, but should have been a boss. This room's full of jerk panels. Just a quick note, that right after checking the damage that I could do, the other 0% was Degenerate, which I actually caught myself before just whiffing on him, so instead went to Lead Bones. So just picking between high damage and low accuracy, or high accuracy and lower damage. In my mind, the leg seems to be the best. Despite the lack of the shield, the fire dragon doesn't do too much damage to me. And again, like with the snow dragon, there's not really a good place to get multiple hits in with just a level 2 spell. But I want it in my record books right now, so that's what I'm doing. Now, as you may have noticed, I am using the halberd, the great axe. There's something I could do, but I didn't think it was worth it in this case. You'll see that one later. And the factoid here, as you can see, it was only after bringing the second leg down to dying status that I've slowed down the fire dragon. And a lot of good it does, because I'm not going to bother trying to chase around to his tail or anything. I'm just going to murder him right from here. And there he goes. Can't make our way through here yet, but we have two other choices. Oddly enough, despite there being rooms underneath here, it doesn't matter. You just you don't drop down unless there's a cloud stone joining the two rooms. So that was the first quote-unquote not boss in the cathedral. Here is number 2. Here we got a couple of skeletons and a Lich Lord. Here I was thinking, no, I'm not gonna... I'll let you do the honors. And do the honors he did. So if I was really so inclined, I could have allowed him to take care of the other skeleton as well. But as you can see, you definitely do not want to let him have his way with you. As you can see, I'm using my silver blade, which is why I'm doing so little damage to the Lich right now. But I wasn't particularly interested in changing equipment and losing the Prostasia. For better or worse. Again, don't fall for their attempts to kite you, or make you kite them. It really isn't worth it. And it's at this point where I decide to just go for it. Despite not being a boss, he still triggers a couple of event flags. This will be one of the last things that we see before the end. For some reason, an emulator glitch or something, he did not drop what he should have. He should have dropped the Grimoire Radius for the Radial Strike, for that giant holy bomb of doom, even though I would have only gotten a tiny ball of doom out of it. So it's something that I kinda noticed, but it won't sink in for a little bit longer. And here is the third non-boss. Only one more non-boss left. This is just a regular Lich and a couple of jerks. Which is why I didn't bother to go for the full course meal of buffing and just tossed up the magic ward. Why I didn't bother going for the silver sword and just killed them with my evil blade. This guy gives stuff. Don't care about the ghost hound. So as you can see, the cathedral is basically 60 or 70% bosses, 20% somewhat complicated platforming, and then 10% jerks. We can't simply just jump across there. We have to take the long way. You don't need to jump, you could just fall. However, you can't fall from here, even though that's what I'm going to do. Back at it. Through this door. And we find not a boss, but another puzzle room. The goal is not to get hung up on geometry, but to push these things around. And the goal of that is to stop this pushable cube from getting up along the tall edge. Because heaven forbid if Ashley actually just takes one of his swords and just pries between that wall and the pushable cube and you know, not damage anything. Here we have another set of stuff. We'll almost have a full set of the third best armor in the game after we complete this. Just soaking in the environment a little bit. And all the other roods in the game have just been either the stylized one in the pots menu, in the equipment menu, or just a couple of polygons, whereas that one was a nice, interesting one. Anyway, whenever you're ready, Ashley. So obviously the goal is to get everything into this pit in a line leading directly to the chest. So now we have to deal with pushable wooden crates and frictionless cubes. This thing is basically useless in the edge, it's just so that you can grab back onto the cloudstone. All these other pushable cubes are... And I realize now that I screwed up. So, back at it. So, take two. Push that one forward and to the right. And then push that. We need 3 more. Although we can, as you can see, we will be able to push everything but that one along the wall into the pit. Well, I could have pushed that other crate two steps over. No, I did that. There's no accounting for taste, I guess. No. 2 over and 1 forward. And we'll get the last of the frictionless ones in. So, if I was so inclined, I could take this one in, push it here, then drop into the pit and hack this one. And then push that up against the wall. Or I could have just pushed the other wooden crate in and had a nice full pile. So now I have a kit for the whole third best armor in the game. I'm going to forget about this for a second and then remember halfway through the next room. Over in that other corner, the upper left, there is a switch that will need to be pulled. And here I am remembering it right now. We will not be able to make it through this way, unless I were to crack a fairy's wing, but no. Fairy wings are really for that purpose. They're not too useful in normal play. Or boss play, that is, I mean. Also, and this being the second switch in the game, the first one didn't really have an occasion for this to come up. Since this scene has transitioned, the room is now... I've homed in on that part of the room. I've lost my spawn point at the door, so I was hoping to just do a speedrun tactic and plummet to my doom, but well, there you go. So that's about 2/3 of the final dungeon. Join me next time when we finish the cathedral and proceed on to the final boss in the following video. So also, yeah, just enjoy some Schadenfreude right there for you. See you next time.